So Morten, while people are rolling in, you know, um, first of all, I want to thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your event. It's been really interesting, and for me, the technology. I know you're laughing because I don't understand half of what's going on, but I've actually learned a lot. In the fact that I kind of was really relegated to the idea that workflow and automation was really a software play. And I'm not saying that that's not a significant part of it, but I'm almost thinking that workflow is a state of mind at this point. It's a bigger, it kind of is putting me into that possibility category now with all the things I've been learning. I know that certainly in all the conversations that come up, web to print is probably the first thing people mention when they talk about workflow automation, which is why I'm really glad you're going to tackle that topic. Well, what do you think about the concept of workflow as an attitude or as an idea?
I'm of course very happy that you bring that up, because I have actually a session, I can't remember if it's tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, about the digital mindset. Because one thing is that we talk about the technology, and that is, when now Kim and Victor is not here, I think. No, so now we can be a little bit more. No, not just kidding. It's just because, people that sell software, they want to sell software. People that sell hardware, they want to sell hardware. All good. But when the day is over, I believe truly that what takes you into the digital space, in the digital mindset, and how you understand these things, is way more a question about understanding all the things that plays a role in that correlation, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And that is, and the reason why I the advantage of being the owner of the show and the editor is that you can basically pick your own topics, right? you know that, Deborah, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was like when I wanted to talk about that web to print is so much more than just the WWs. It's mainly because I think that, as you say, the first thing people think of when they talk about how we, especially also during the pandemic, it is the web fronts that we see. That is what most people think drives most of their business when it comes to being delivered digitally, right? And as you saw also yesterday from Diego's session, he was talking about how important the electronic job ticket was as part of that process, right? But these job tickets can be created from anywhere, right? It can be created from MIS systems, from web to print solutions, from apps, from applications that you would never think of being print related. I'm going to show a few things here. I'm also going to show a little bit about some business model that's a little bit different that most people think. I'm referring to an American printing company called Free Print. And just to keep that appetite alive, I just want to say that they are basically giving away print for free. Now you can wonder how they're doing that, but they give as much as up to 1,000 photo prints. I think it's 8x5, free a month, and you only pay for shipping, right? Yeah. So now we're wondering, how is that supported, and how is that going to?
How much does shipping cost? Just
$2 million, of course.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think you just made a really great point. That certainly, again, I don't think past certain things because I'm on the consumer end of it. I'm on the user end of it, being a print customer. So you're right. It doesn't matter how fast a print shop can take an order in. You can get the exactly, Rob. They make all their money on shipping. That's why I made a face to Morten. It's one thing being able to set up yourself with a really great web to print ordering system and maybe spend a few dollars on SEO so orders come to you. It's another thing to have 600 orders sitting in the queue and you're standing there like, I have to touch all of these things. I have to spend time, and all of a sudden there's no margin. There's no way to actually capitalize in a profit way. Can you even believe I'm having I've learned a lot. I'm going to come back in as attendee, so I'm not on your screen, and I will be in the chat area if anybody wants to make comments in that. But Morten, please take over your own session.
Okay, thank you, Deb. So thank you very much for attending our Smart Factory Learn With Us USA edition. It's a pleasure. As you can hear, I'm not from the US. I am not even capable of speaking in proper English, but I try my way anyway. So let me dig into. I have prepared a slideshow. So why not just get that started with? See, first of all, you can always ask. So what makes it? Why should I be any? Why should I be relevant listening to? And I may not be, so bear with me. I hope you will stay with me. I hope you will also ask questions, and I also hope even more that you will question my sayings, because I think that what we want to do with INKISH, and what I think is the most important thing of developing the industry in more general terms, is that we don't take things for granted, that we put a question mark to everything, because we are in times where new things are required to some extent. So I sometimes actually refer to myself as the self-proclaimed Mr. Know-it-all, because I can tell you that, I used to work in a printing company years ago, and when we started INKISH, I did never ever anticipate that I would be the one speaking in front of a camera, first of all. Second, I was a little bit surprised, because I was once, a couple of years ago, I was asked to be, to moderate a conference, one of the real ones in physical, because they thought I was a thought leader, or I was an important person in the industry. I am not an important person in the industry. If I do my job good, then I create a platform where we can discuss. I think that everybody has something to say in that perspective, and that's so. Just to put that in the center. I'm 52 years old. Yeah, I know I look very young, but that's because I have two young kids, Mads and Casper, on 15 and 13, and married with Nina. And I have a daughter, Christine. She's 26. As you can hear, or maybe know, I am living in Copenhagen in Denmark. That's, to be honest, a butterhole in these COVID-19 times, because we don't have a lot of COVID-19 here. So we have been a little fortunate in that perspective. So yeah, I think it's enough about me. Otherwise, we can connect on LinkedIn, and you are welcome to ask anything you want. So the name of the session, or the title of the session, is Web to Print is More Than WWW. And as I said to Deborah during the introduction, I think that most people, including myself, believe that www is maybe the starting point of how to use the internet for selling print. I think that everybody who is already in this industry knows that it can generate a lot of business, but I also think that a lot of the people that have tried to set up a web to print shop figure it out relatively soon that, okay, orders do not come by themselves. It requires marketing, it requires skills, it requires a lot of hard work to get the shop up and running. And if you are just another Me Too, not the other Me Too, but this Me Too, then you will end up in a situation where you will maybe be a little bit disappointed. So you, of course, have to have a strategy, what you want to achieve and how to get to that point, of course. So what are people doing? Are we going to talk about? I think that a lot of printing companies are using the web to print solutions for what we call business to business solutions, where you have like business card orders, where you use the advantages of having variable data and all these kind of things. But there's more to it. So I thought that, okay, let's talk about the customers, because when the day is over, some of the articles are written on INKISH News, and we have a full section that's called about web to print, so you can read if you want to. But one of the things that always strikes me is that if you are from a large company and you think that you can buy one solution and it fits all your potential customers in the world, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. So let's take a look at who are the customers and what is it, what do they require. I I'm trying not to be conclusive in other things, because I don't know. I know a lot about the US, but I don't know anything in details about the US. So use this as an inspiration for identifying your own things. For example, some consumers are like Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and I'm referring to that as people that are not in the printing industry, people that are not frequently buying from maybe not from the internet at all, but definitely not from a web to print solution. They have different skills, of course. Some are young, some are old. And you would also have to direct that sometimes you communicate with experienced people, and sometimes you communicate with unexperienced people. And some have never tried any web to print before. So how do you get people on board and make sure that they register and they do all the right things in order to get a job where they will be happy? And then I put in a lot of strange letters. I think it's Thai. It doesn't mean anything. I just want to say you are also sometimes in a situation where you get customers from different countries, right? In the US, you are so fortunate that you have a huge market in one language. Or do you have one language? Because don't you have a huge Spanish population that might be very interesting in buying from you if you offer your services in both Spanish and English? I think so. So that is something that you have to take into consideration as well. And then you have to take into consideration as well that some of your customers are professionals and some are less professionals, so to speak. So let's talk a little bit about how they buy. And I'm taking this a little bit fast because this is just to give a common background from the rest of the presentation. Let's say that we start with the buying an offline experience. Typically, I think it starts, at least did that with the printing company I used to work with, is basically first starts with an RFQ. And when you get the RFQ, you have to clarify it. And then, do you understand what your customer need? Then you present an offer. I think that often the customers will compare that to other printing companies just to be sure that they are buying it on the price they expect. If they like your offer, they will order it, and then they will deliver some files. There will be a proofing process, a printing, binding, shipping, invoice, and a payment process. See, this is what hundreds of thousands of printing companies globally do every day. And all of this is good as long as you have a fine balance on the revenue per order and the profit per order and the number of orders you have in the printing company. The moment where you get up in the 10s, 20, 30,000 orders a day, this is not an option. You have to do something else. So let's take a look at the online buying experience. And there's at least one radical difference that is very, very dominant in why also online print sometimes is seen as cheaper than conventional ordering of print. And that is starts with payment process. If you look at it, most online printers, they charge you as you order. I know that some online printers have business to business clients who have an account and have some kind of credit. But I also know that a lot of the advantages for being a commodity and online printer is that you get an extremely improved cash flow by actually asking the money in the ordering process. And think about it for a second. If you go to your grocery shop, if you go to Amazon, if you go to almost any other shop, even as a business, you're expected to pay when you order. So it's not something where customers will be like, no, that doesn't apply to me. I think a lot of people will think of this as, yeah, of course we pay on this one. At this point, you have already, got your selection because you're ordering business cards or letterheads or leaflets or whatever so you don't have a clarification process. You may have compared the prices on this website with other websites, but at the point where you get into the process of ordering, everything is more or less already done deal, right? So you pay, order, files, proofing, print, binding, shipping. And that is all these processes, because a lot of these processes are kind of put into templates or standardized, can be automated. And if you can automate a process, you can handle way more orders with fewer people compared to if you were in a situation where you had to do all these things manually. I know this is not something that is new to you. I'm just trying to set the balance so we know exactly what we're talking about here. if you look at the markets, I think there's a lot of different markets in and segments that you can talk about. The way I have tried to define it is business to consumer. That is typically the vista prints kind of companies, where you order a photo book, you order a coffee mug with print, or you order one T-shirt. I mean, these kind of could be like. Then you have business to business. That is essentially where you order maybe from a catalog of templates, and maybe from agreed prices, and everything is set on a business level. So, for example, if you have a chain of stores, you would typically have like a kind of a set of requirements when it comes to paper, when it comes to the QLA, to all these things. So that is like the business to business market. I refer to something that's called the service market, which I think a lot of people will not think of as where to print. If you think about, for example, the transactional print, I know in the US it's way bigger than in Europe, but the transactional print, for example, you get the data from ERP systems, from MIS systems, from a lot of different systems, and these systems pushes the data into your printing company using the internet. So ergo, it is a kind of a web to print solution, right? And I have tried to take, all the companies I could identify on the internet and see, okay, does this apply to them or does it not apply to them? And I think it applies to at least most of them, but we can talk about that later. Then you can look at the competition. I actually think that if you're not already in web to print, I think that one of the biggest competitors you have is yourself, because I don't know how it is with your company. I know for all the printing companies I used to work in, is that you have individual pricing for almost every customer. You have not optimized your production into gang printing, into optimizing production. You typically produce one order by one order, and you typically have different prices. So one of the fears you might have as a printer, considering going into the web to print, is that how will it affect your business if suddenly you have a web shop where all your business card prices are even, right? Business cards is a great example, because and maybe the customers should know, but that the service level on business cards is very different from customer to customer. Some can do print ready material, some just deliver an Excel, some deliver some shitty kind of pre-press that needs to be handled. And if you don't have the workflow to handle it automated, or if you don't have these kind of things, you may end up in a situation where it's justified that you have a higher price tag on some customers rather than on other customers. Of course, also in your competition is online printers, because the way that online printers, especially the big ones, can deliver both cheap prices, fast turnaround time, and also at a low price and still be profitable, is because they have volume. So if you are a small printing company considering what you want to do with your business, and you think that, okay, price is maybe one of the major important subjects in your marketing of your new shop, you can look at any web to print solution and look at them and think that, that's a bit expensive. Maybe I can't compete in this market, because everything you do in your market, if you want to be competing on price, needs to be aligned with that. So of course, other online printers are competitors as well. Then what I refer to as non-online printers, that is the competition you have. Because if your competitors are not online, why should you even invite yourself and your customers? Because the moment you have a shop online, you open up for comparison. Transparency is one of the things that we like about buying online. I'm pretty sure I will show you in a second why I am certain that you recognize this kind of things. And then a competitor that you may not have thought of is the companies who don't even see print as their product. I will give you an example in a moment, but just let me just check the next slide. Maybe that's not the one yet. I will just show in a second. But if you think of this as, if you, for example, have let's say that you go to a website where you can order a framed photo of a map location somewhere, right? If you look at that, what they deliver is a printed product, for sure. Are they a printer? Hell no, right? Basically, they probably just order from somewhere, right? But can they can they be a big supplier of printed material? Yes, they can. So these kind of companies are based on not delivering what we in our industry refer to as normal standard print, but where the print is part of the product and the customer experience. And that is something where you have to look into, can you compete in a totally different market, in a market where you need to deliver something that is not the paper, but the value or the experience or the impression, all the soft values around the product. Why should you buy a digitally printed map in a frame where you pay 10, 15, 20, 100 times more than you would pay if you just went to the copy shop and made it yourself? Well, it's because it utilizes the engine for creating the design. It utilizes the shipping, a great looking frame, and it's sometimes also becomes a brand in itself where you really like that kind of thing, right? So that leads me to the interfaces, because if you look at it, we can talk about a lot of different things in relation to how web to print. If you saw the presentation from Diego Diaz yesterday, he said that basically when the printing company receives the ordered job ticket, a JDF file or some kind of XML data, essentially a printing company or pre-press system or an MIS system really don't care whether it comes from the internet, from a USB stick, or from anywhere else in the world. And that leads me to the interfaces. You can think of it, the World Wide Web is the interface that we normally go to. You turn on your computer, and it's convenient because you can upload your files and everything like that. But it could be apps, right? It could be specific apps for creating specific content that you want to. There's a lot of photo books on the app stores that enables you to create a photo book without even being on a computer, right? And you can also find, I will show you in a second, some apps that are not remotely close to being a web to print solution, but for sure gives you an interface and delivers the print file with the XML data to the printers, so they can just in quotation print, pack, and ship out things. So apps are, to me, a surprise, because not so many printing companies using apps in their own marketing and sales these days. But third parties are. Other people are using apps and accessing printing companies, and they are using the next topic here, the APIs. An API is a short for Application Programmers Interface. And that is essentially, and in short, I'm not a programmer, so just very short, it's basically the way that any app, any website can interface to your company. So you, for example, can have, let's say, a very lean and efficient production company. And instead of having your own front end, like in a www, or have your own app delivering the data, you can white label your services to anybody, and they can deliver into your workflow, and all the data, the white label data, the shipping data, everything that relates to that customer will be part of the data that flows in. And if you look at this opportunity, suddenly, instead of having a front end in a browser where you need to market your services to a certain number of customers before it becomes profitable, if you develop an API, you might have an opportunity to go to other printing companies, to service providers like Gelato, like Cloud Printer, like for example, also we are going on Friday, we are talking about with HP about their SiteFlow, which also uses some interfacing so the customers can get directly access to your production equipment. And also, as Robert Godwin spoke about in his great session from yesterday, the overcapacity in the market can be utilized in many different ways. And the APIs is maybe one of the really, truly great ways of interfacing with a potentially larger number of customers rather than trying to build your own web to print solution. This slide here is people that knows me, they know that I have a very stupid humor. So this is, I thought it was fun because here we have a European website called HelloPrint to the left, and another European website to the right called SaxoPrint. And I thought it was really funny because Hello, they don't print, and Saxo, they do print. One of them is HelloPrint is essentially a print broker or a print facilitator. So they have almost the similar products as Saxo Print has. So also see from a customer's perspective, you don't necessarily need to own the equipment in order to have a web to print solution. That means that not only can it, if you are a printing company and you want to have it, you can think of it as something that fulfill your needs of using your equipment, but you can also see it as a business opportunity to sell a way broader range of products and services. And I'm not so familiar with the online printers in the US, but in Europe, these companies are really big. Some of them are like, a couple billion euros in revenue annually. And most of these really big ones are more than 20,000 orders a day. So of course they need to have something, but I'm just saying that the end user or the customer, they cannot differentiate whether it's a broker or it's a printing company. And that you of course have to be aware of whether that's a value for you in your sales and marketing. So just to have that as part of things. Then I have, and I apologize that I didn't use a U.S. Postal Service, but PostNord is U.S. Postal Service in Denmark. And I just wanted to show you some examples. We have, for example, the PostNord is the Nordic, Swedish and Danish Postal Service. And if I just click on this video, I show you a little I download. Don't worry about the languages there. That is not so important. But basically, the Postal Service is offering you an app where you can go and pick some photos from your library. I think that most of us understand that we have hundreds of thousands or 30s or tens of thousands of photos in our phones. And basically, with this little app, you can create a little postcard. And you can also essentially write a message to the person that you want to send this postcard to. And you can see that it's essentially, I think I was using this at an event called GraphCom. And basically, I just sent and printers. I'll print next, sorry. And basically, this little video shows you an example on how a postal service can be using an app, which I believe is fairly simple to create. I think there must be some kind of API in the back end that basically connects to the printing company or the printing companies that they are using. So the Postal Service, is that a printing company? Nah, it's not, right? And do they care about the paper and that kind of things? I don't think so. What I think they care about is to sell postage, because that's their business, right? So that is definitely one thing that you have to put into that perspective, right? The other one, PrintTech, is also a service. Let me show you that one. That is, I would say, it's almost an even simpler product. You have this on your phone again, and basically you have a few pre-made selections like size and number of photos, and then the company have made like 3 types of pre-made boxes that can hold maybe 50 photos or something like that. And essentially, what they do now is that you just again pick the number of photos you need from your camera roll. And you can see it's the same time of year, Christmas time last year. And I pick a few pictures of my kids and my wife and put them in the box. And a few days later, I will get this. And you can see this was for 18 euros. It's about 20 bucks. And essentially this example, if you have a B2 or a B1 digital press, you know that the nominal cost or the base cost of producing 50 photos and put them in a box is not very expensive. It's not very difficult. So this is again a relatively simple but good business idea that gives you the opportunity to make business in a way where the price for sure is higher than if you look at for sure higher than if compare it to selling the sheets on on a normal price, right? I don't think that anybody is expecting to get like 10, 15 bucks on a on one sheet just cut up in different sizes, unless you have a good business idea and you create the interfaces to make sure that it happens. This is mixed tile. I suggest that we talk about that in a later session because we have limited time here. So here's a few examples of something that is using the APIs, and this is, for example, the top one is called Kite, and that is owned by Canon. And if you think about it for a second, what is Canon's business? Yeah, one thing is, of course, they want to sell as many machines as possible, but I am also pretty sure that they have a high wish for selling as many clicks as possible, because they know if they sell click, they make money, and they know their customers make money. So why not letting the big suppliers having APIs that they can utilize as, you know, to, let's say, to larger companies that needs print, then Canon can own a part of the value chain and make sure that it lands on a Canon machine rather than on any other machines, right? Great, simple idea, and something that I think a lot of people should really look into figuring out if that wasn't a good idea. One thing I want to say before I go to the next topic here is basically that when you look at the APIs, there's actually a lot of printing companies in the world that already have a set of APIs that you can interface with. For example, we spoke about Vistaprint for the parent company, Simpress. They have, I think it's more than 50 different APIs where you can connect directly your workflow directly into their workflow. Again, that means that if you can do it, your customers potentially can do that as well. So, of course, you have to think about what kind of advantages, disadvantages this gives you, and maybe that could be something that could be interesting to, you know, copy as well. And I think that also if you look at Amazon and if you look at some of the other big printing companies, they have APIs that you can connect to. So let's say that you have a web to print solution and there's products that you can produce yourself. Then you can interface via the API directly into the other company's workflow, and then be sure that you can deliver on these measures to in a very smart way. I have seen it working. I know even smaller printing companies. We made a film from a printing company in the Netherlands a couple of months ago. It's Vihabo, and they invested in a HP Indigo 100K, and you know, just to put in perspective, a relatively small printing company, but one of the customers and one of the things they do is they print on chocolate. So I asked how they do that, and basically they have an API that connects to the customers where you order online chocolate with your names on, and they get the transfers delivered and the data directly delivered, so they can, you know, do the chocolate, pack things on behalf of the chocolate company, and make sure that it's sent out. But that led to that they have like 7, 8 other websites and customers that are using their APIs to interact and to integrate their services into them. So this is not something that is only for the big ones. It's also something that you can definitely think of as part of your own strategy, in my opinion. So products and production. I think that one of the misperceptions in the market is that a lot of people think that online print is, or web to print is always related to cheap. And I think it's because if you look way back, you know, 10, 15 years when the first web to print solutions started, I think that they took the commodity products first, the ones that you can gang print, the products that you can standardize, the thing where you can get volume and to make sure that is the way. But you know, just to be 100%, you know, certain about these things, web to print is just an interface. It's like hiring a salesperson, and this is just like an electronic salesperson. So whether it sells you or the system sells specialized or commodity product is really not an example. I know that most of you probably know Moo. Moo is both British, English, and an American entity, and Moo mainly produces business cards. But just to put that in perspective, they do really beautiful business cards. They have spent a lot of time on packaging and developing the services. 150-person company. They have just turned €1 billion, I think, last year in just business cards. So this is that a commodity? Well, I think that some people think of business cards as a commodity, but if you look at Move's website and think of this as commodity, I think that most people will rethink the word commodity because they do things that are really, really nice. Then I have put in another website, which I think you will have a smile on your lips in a second, because I show you a little screenshot from it. Elegante Press is a Lithuanian printing company. It's a 2-person company, and they do letterpress, the good old letterpress production. And they do invites for weddings, extremely expensive business cards, extreme beautiful print. And I think that a lot of us would like to have business cards and flyers and marketing material in that range. And the reason why I think you will smile a little bit in a second, let's turn it. You can see that we are fast. Our regular turnaround time is 12 business days. And I think that is really funny, because I think that now some of the KPIs from online printing companies are, we have less than 24 hours turnaround time, or order today before 5 and you get them delivered next day. I mean, the relations on how you see turnaround time as a fast or slow, of course, I mean, everything it relates to. I think if you order a new aircraft carrier, you wouldn't think of it to be delivered next day, right? You would assume that it takes some time to build it. And print used to take time. It used to be a craft. It's, of course, still a craft, but it depends a little bit on what type of product. We are also ourselves forcing everybody to move into a faster pace, and it causes us some challenges, I would say. When we're talking about all the things that I've been talking about for the past almost 35 minutes, there are some terms that people need to get familiar with. One thing is, of course, automation. If you want to be an online printer, regardless of what of the types of online printers you want, automation needs to be part of it. You cannot have a printing company where you handhold everything during the thing. Ganging is definitely something you need to think of. Then something that I am not sure how much you talk about in America. It's a topic that we quite often talk about in Europe, and that is marginal cost versus full cost, or the absorption cost model. Because basically, when I worked in a printing company, one of the first printing companies I worked in, I remember my boss, he was sitting and hand calculating everything, and with the full cost absorption model, he was like, we don't have margin that is good enough. And that was because, with the full absorption full cost model, you essentially need to understand the utilization of your equipment in order to get a price on it. And sometimes you can forget that marginal cost can also be profitable if you're not utilizing machines enough. Of course, you have to get things under control. So this is something that I would love to talk to you about in another session, because that is something that is really, for me, very, very interesting, and something that everybody should be looking a little bit more into. Drop shipping. I know that is probably something that you know a lot of in America, but I can tell you a lot of printers are not very good at it, at least in Europe, because they sometimes forget that it's, if you have blue boxes from a company, then it's only that one company. If you ship it in that, everybody will know that it was produced somewhere else. APIs, we already touched upon it. Mergers and acquisitions is definitely also part of this. The big ones in this industry are looking to acquire smaller ones and adapt that into their operations. And even some of the big investment companies are looking into this, because remember, we may not be a very solid business industry in many ways, but our gross profits or gross margins are really high. So if you can get the volume and you can become efficient, you can make a lot of money in this industry. And I think that if you look at some of the really big ones, they have proven there's a good business model, there's a good opportunity. So mergers and acquisitions, of course, also become part of that agenda. Then you should, of course, avoid somewhat what I refer to as the obvious pitfalls, system over application. Yesterday, again, Robert Godwin spoke about how important it is not to over-automate. I think that's a very valid and sound argument, and I think you should watch this session when we are ready with the replays. It was a really great one. Watch out that you're not buying too cheap, and also watch out that you're not buying too expensive. And then I write non-winner strategies, and how can you avoid that? Well, if you knew that in advance, you would probably avoid it. But sometimes it's about thinking in a little bit ahead. One of the things I sometimes hear from printers is mainly in my part of the world is that, well, our customers, they don't want web to print. And I'm just wondering, that's kind of strange, because they do their banking online, they do their travels online, they do the communication among companies online. So why should print be the only thing that they don't want to buy online? That doesn't make sense at all, right? And then, of course, always, we have tried it, it didn't work, so never go that route again. But the time is changing, consumers are changing. You always have to be where your customers are. So if your customers are online, be online, right? And never fall into that, the worst of them. Let's do it tomorrow. Do it now, because everything you do now is something that it takes time to get it, around, and it takes time to get things, started. Then expect democratization of prices. What does that mean? That means that if you don't add value to your product, and the value is not the paper and the ink, it's the value in the perception of the customer. That means that the price falls we have seen already will most likely continue to fall unless we are capable of adding value to it. And I promised in the beginning that I wanted to show you something. This is free prints from the US, and get up to 1,000 free 4x6 photo prints, no subscription, no commitments, just free prints. And to be honest, I can't remember the shipping price right now, but it was not something completely insane. I would say, as also, I think it was David Swang that said yesterday, that you have to understand that, or maybe it was Diego Diaz, but basically you have to understand that if you have like let's say that a consumer price for shipping is $10 or $20, whatever it is, and because of your volume, you're able to get it down to, let's say, 2 or 3. There is no reason why you should give that $7 of advantage to your customers. If you can use this as a marketing opportunity, do it. I think that what you see with free prints, I'm not ordered from them, but I think that what you will see from here is essentially that I will think that it takes a little bit longer time to get your free prints. So maybe you will opt in for a faster delivery. I also think you will have easily opt in for bigger size. You will maybe have opt in for better paper, maybe some varnishing options. So you are able to get 1,000 free 4x6 photo prints. But my take is that most people probably upgrade the products, and therefore this is a great opportunity for the printing company or the service. I don't know if it's a printing company or a service, but essentially they will end up in a situation where you will be able to have maybe even a very high profit again on these types of product, because you have the premiums that you can use in that perspective, right? So and they have just done it now also with photo books. So now you can have, like, I think it's 2 photo books a month you can order for free. Of course, with a lot of limitations and asterisks declaring the terms, and all those things that you normally would know of, right? So I hope this presentation was something that you find interesting. That is always the reason why we spend time with each other, I believe. These subjects is, in my opinion, very interesting and very funny, and I think it's very important, because I think also, as you maybe even know more in America than maybe even more than in Europe, the buying behaviors are definitely changing now because of the COVID-19. People don't really want to go out too much. They don't, and they have to sometimes also with furloughs and lockdowns, they have to be, at home. They need to do things that they didn't do before. So ordering online of also print is definitely a market space that you have to be part of if you want to be successful. And I just wanted to let you know that this is, as again said in the beginning, not trying to be conclusive. I'm not trying to be the smart guy here. I'm just trying to tell you a little bit about some of the opportunities that I believe should be considered, at least. So I hope, yeah, that was it from my side. So let me see if there's any questions. Or Deborah, have you, if you want to join me and then let me know if there's anything that we should talk about here. We have 15 minutes, which is fantastic, of time before the next session, which is with the good guys from Solimar, and that's the biggest session we have. Afterwards, there's 5 presenters, so that will be interesting. And Slava, my good friend Slava, he writes to me, "Great job, Morten." Oh, I'm so happy about that. And Steve, he's also appreciating. Thanks again for informative. Many thanks. See, that's the currency we use at INKISH. So when we can't invoice anything, at least we can get the credits from our audience. So that was really great. We have Maria Jose Riquat. Sorry, I can't pronounce it, but thank you very much for the presentation. I was wondering if there's no questions to this, because I specifically asked you in the beginning to question everything I said. So what about you, Deborah? Are you questioning everything I said? No. No. You left. She's coming back to the room. So hello, friend. This is sometimes the technical issues. Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you. You can't hear me. I just refresh. So was that better? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for the... Deborah, I can hear you. Can everybody hear me? Because I can see some responses. Can
you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I can't hear you, but there was one question in the chat, which from RRC.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good information, sir. In future,
I'm sorry, Morten, I can't hear you, so I'm going to come out. I'm going to go out and come back.
Okay. But RRCC is writing here, good information, sir. In future, is it possible to print newspaper, latest news personalization, small quantity book printing on ATM machine, add on to the digital printer, and if possible, put a recycled paper machine along this process. Wow. See, the thing is that when you look at newspapers, in my opinion, newspapers are changing quite a lot. I disagree with most of them in the way that they are proceeding with their business model, but that's a different thing. You were also participating yesterday, and I think that is one of the things that needs to be added to to everything that we're talking about now. Because if you look at newspapers industry, the product is not the paper. The product is the information that you have in the paper. So for a newspaper, the product is not the paper itself, and the printing process is just a carrier of that information, because that is what people buy. And that's why you see some are now trying to make payment walls on the internet to get people to pay subscriptions and premiums to get to that content. And some are trying to. I know there has been tests. I know that Pat McGrew will join us in a session in the next session, and I know that she has also seen in the Netherlands and Belgium companies that have done personalized newspapers. So it is definitely possible, but that requires totally new business models, because the cost of producing digital compared to a cold set machine is completely different. So I don't know if that answers your thing. I think to have a paper mill on demand next to your ATM, I don't think that is. I don't think that's an option. But I think it's a good suggestion, because there are kiosks with magazine print in fine paper around the globe right now. So that is definitely not a far-fetched idea. I'm not sure that it takes off with the newspapers. They're simply too cheap and too big most of the times in order to get that in that route.
I mean, that this sends me into the possibility, realm, and with, multiple languages being really topical now, it's really a great opportunity, just coming in on, what I think you're talking about, to be able to say, okay, certain of these articles I prefer in the language that I natively speak because I need to understand something more comprehensively, or sometimes with financial information, the studies have shown that people prefer to make that final purchase decision in their native language, just to make sure. So there could be a real opportunity for that. But also to, again, and I'm sorry because I am coming in on what I believe you're talking about. It also,
it's not fair, right, Deborah?
Yeah, I'm just guessing, but I think I know what you're talking about. It comes into this realm of something I say often: just because you can doesn't mean you should, or And that's why I really enjoyed this presentation, Morten, because you were so right about buyers come in all different flavors. They come in different budget sizes. They come in different knowledge sizes. They come in different file creation sizes.
Oh, yeah.
So how can you possibly compensate for that in one ordering system? There has to be so much more surrounding it, including content and education,
Yeah.
But I see that you answered RC's question. That was the only one I saw in the chat before I left.
I can reflect a little bit on one of the things that you spoke about, because one of the things I didn't touch upon in my presentation, which I think is something that people should really look into, is that if they invest in a web-to-print solution, let's say they take off-the-shelf solution, they should definitely look into off-the-shelf solutions that can have multiple storefronts. Because one thing is that we talk about having it because you need to have different UIs and different ways of approaching customers. That can maybe be a little bit more difficult in that perspective. But one of the things that is for sure is that if you are, let's say that you target a higher price segment, right? Why should you not be interested in the lower price segment? So you might have Deborah's cheap print and Deborah's expensive print, right? Because you want to have the expensive one is where you get the premium service, where you get premium deliveries, premium packaging, premium everything. And the cheaper ones is made, and you have to think about how you ensure that you don't trash your brand value if you try to do both in the same platform and the same front end, because you need to have different entities in how you sell things. And that is that. Oh, DeborahExpress.com is Slava's suggestion. I think that would be so great.
No, I think maybe he's saying Express.com is a company. Maybe he's saying something like that.
I thought it was DeborahExpress.com. That is the new fast printing company, right?
Yeah, but to make a comment about what you just said. I mean, I don't know what it takes to set up online ordering systems, but I have to assume that there is some level of knowledge and time that takes. And I know that you can kind of just copy them over and replace products and stuff like that. But I'm not really sure if I'd want to have all those different things to monitor instead of, to your point, get people in on this is our no frills option. And then like a lot of, I know you don't like to mention the name, so I won't mention the name that starts with a V and ends with an A. That's an online ordering system called Vistaprint. But if you go in there or to follow along that model, like, okay, this is what it is at bare minimum, but wait, we can add this on, and we can add this on, and we can add this on. And suddenly you're not upselling anybody. You're presenting options that they're deciding that they want. And I think that that's really important with, people, having tight budgets and stuff. Any type of system, any type of way to make it the most convenient for me and take away the clutter. To your point, I almost love that it's verticalized too, because if I'm a real estate agent, that's all I care about right now. I don't want to see an annual report for a car dealership. And I agree, time and money.
Yeah, and another thing, just on an end note, here is also one of the things I didn't touch upon is also how you sometimes attract people from different entry points.
Yeah,
there are web to print solutions that starts with the design. So they basically say that, okay, if you create your design online, it basically delivers that design through all your products. So you can basically use that as a kind of design manual for your company. So you do one edit and then basically it replicates everything. Another thing in that perspective, which I haven't seen as much as I would like, is also, for example, with the Chili publisher, basically where you have the dynamic templates. Basically, when you create one design and you have all the elements, then they basically can alter that into not just variable data, but also to variable format sizes outputs. I think that the omnichannel or the omnichannel is extremely important in the future, also in relation to printing companies, because, as I said in the beginning, the problem is that if we commoditize, just hang on a second here. We have a presenter that can hang on. I will help him. No, I'm just saying that basically we are in a situation where the way that we are. I lost it. Sorry.
It's okay. You were talking about multiple entry points.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and I'm just saying that if the printing companies don't get smarter in adding value to the service that they offer, they will end up being a commoditized factory where it, to be honest, comes down to the variable cost.
Yeah.
And that is a volume business that will not leave space for a lot of the printing companies of today. So therefore, people need to understand that this is not just a web to print solution. This is a business mantra that they have to look into, right?
Yeah.
So
it's really a customer engagement, customer retention, customer loyalty. I mean, I could go on about, if you're doing a postcard, why can't you turn that into a social media ad, like you're leaving money on the table? I mean, you and I could probably talk about this forever, but I want you to be mindful of the time because
I am. So we have to leave because we have a presenter that can get in. So let's get off here, and you will take good care. People, please go to the next session with Solimar.
I put the link to the INKISH page in the chat, so everyone can just click there and click on the 1 o'clock session if you want to join, and we'll see you over there. I'm going to go open the door for people, Morten. See you in a few minutes.
Thank you. See you in a
second. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.